emergency communication center in Strasburg, Virginia. It isn't the most ideal job for me, but it became a backup option as I originally wanted to become an actor after graduating college. But I couldn't secure a role when I did auditions for some TV shows and movies by working my shifts. It wouldn't be that hardcore. I will sometimes arrest some people who did something illegal with no problem, but I never had such a distressing moment like the one that I'm about to tell you about one night. Last December, when it was close to midnight, the center received an unknown call about a woman who was allegedly acting erratically and damaging property at the Ramada at the Wendam Hotel. I was the one who was sent out to go and find this woman. I arrived at the scene, which was in a parking lot, and I saw a woman with her bare feet holding something that did not look like it belonged to her in her hand. I had to guess that it was that woman who we got a call about. I was telling her to come over here to where I was, and I also told her that she was safe. She was acting pretty crazy, to say the least. The woman then asked me that if I was going to take her to jail before I could even answer her question. She started to grab. I was trying to get a hold of her, but she managed to escape, and she was running away from me. It then pulled my taser out. When I was chasing her, I lost sight of her for a moment, but saw her again as she came from behind a dumpster. I kept running after her, but now I was running slower and out of breath because I was out of shape. I moved her weight. I was back to where my car was as the woman went back to the area. The woman then appeared again. This time she was coming at me. It told her to get back and to stop, and also said that I didn't want to shoot her, but she wouldn't budge, and she started swatting her hands at me. I got my taser out again, deployed it. It didn't work. I deployed it the second time, and it was the same results. His ensuring confrontation was still going on. The woman grabbed my radio receiver and it failed to the asphalt. The woman also fell down as she got up. His all-wear pants fell down, which show her underwear. She had dew stains. She was still holding the receiver, and she came over to me and started wrapping the cord around my neck. I was now struggling in my effort to defend myself. I reached for my baton and swung it at the woman's leg. However, she managed to grab the baton and struck me in the head with it. We then separated for a brief second, and in that second, I drew my firearm despite my shouts to stop. I don't want to shoot you. It took a step forward, and it fired 4 rapid shots, which hit that woman right in the chest. She collapsed on the asphalt. She initially moved before laying still and motionless. I kept yelling her to get down, and she eventually stopped responding. It then called for assistance. When more officers arrived at the scene, I started to break up, crying a little in regret for shooting her, and I kept saying out loud, "Why? You make me do that. I myself am not a violent person, but I had to defend myself because I didn't want to lose my life." An officer named David, he went over to the woman and performed CPR for about 6.5 minutes while waiting for emergency responders. The emergency responders eventually showed up, and the woman was taken to a medical center, where she later died from her injuries. Her name was Melissa Tompkins, and she was 40 years old at the time of her death. She was also a homeless woman who was severely mentally ill, and she was a meth head. I'm still a police officer today working for that communication center. To my luck nothing chaotic just happened since a stop hit. I don't want to shoot you don't be. I want to ring his neck. You help get out. Stop. Get out. Get out. No, get down. Get out. Oh, why you do that? Why did you do that? On April 16th, 2022, Memi's sister and my mother called the police because my 75-year-old grandmother, who had dementia, was experiencing a mental breakdown. I've never seen her have that sort of breakdown before until that day. I've seen her crazy before, but it never went to full-on mental breakdown. None of us were nurses. The rapid psychologist. Our best option was to call 911. A police officer arrived at around 6:45 p.m. All of us were already waiting right at the front door. He stepped to the entrance, and we heard him say through the front door, "Police department, can you guys step out for me?" Told the officer to be careful. We thought that would de-escalate the situation, but it failed to offer any assistance, and instead made it worse. Before even saying hello to me grandmother, he immediately started screaming at her to drop the knife because he's a walk knife in her hand. Hilzo kept telling her to back up. None of us wanted to interfere with the officer because we would have probably gotten in troubles, so we just remained quiet and calm. Seconds kept going by, and we knew by our point of view that this officer was demonstrating a lack of basic knowledge in handling individuals with mental conditions. Kept pointing his gun at her, receiving her as a threat, despite her only being armed with a knife. Next thing you know, the officer did the unthinkable. We saw him shoot her twice, and we heard her body fall to the ground from outside the house. All of us started to lose it. We were crying and screaming, and other officers arrived within seconds and right away started to perform CPR on her. By the officer who shot my grandmother conducted his sweep on the house. When he came out, me, my sister, and my mother sound happy with him. One officer had to hold my mom back because she was coming at the officer about to attack. him. Sadly, my grandmother had on arrival. A district attorney did not charge the officer who shot my grandmother. And to make matters 7 worse, he returned to work 2 months later, and this infuriated my whole family. He subsequently filed a lawsuit against the city, and a settlement of $3 million was later reached between my family and the other party. Almost 3 years have gone by since the incident, and I think about it every day and never forget seeing the grimacing sight of that officer shooting and killing my grandmother. I hope he burns in hell. The name of this officer was Jared Cosper, and I'll never forget them. Drop the knife, do it now, drop. The drop, the do it now. Drop, the knife, do it now. Put him on the ground, put him on the ground, put it down. Now put it down. For most of my life, I've been working as a police officer in Montana. I still work as one to this day. Some people think that being a police officer is very controversial. I've been called names on the job like pig bastard or racist. In 2020, it was very hard to be a police officer. Due to the Black Lives Matter movement riots and the protesters having signs up that say a cab which stands for all cops or bastards. Now it's cooled down a lot, and never wanted to work as one was pretty much my only option because I didn't want to go to college. It's not a matter of wanting to have this job, it's a matter of needing it. There were times where I wanted to quit, but one momental most made me want to kill myself. One night in April of 2014, I pulled over a car because it was swerving around, and it gave me the impression that the driver was drunk, and it nearly hit the police car, almost knocked it off the roadway. I was not having it, and I was very pissed, so I got out of the police car, and I walked up to the driver's window while other officers stayed in the car. I saw that there were 4 people in the race, and I shouted at all of them to put their hands up. They obeyed. But the driver was shaking his hands as he had his hands up in the air. I asked him who he was and why he was panicking. The driver said his name was Richard. Took me few seconds to realize that this was a guy named Richard Ramirez, who was a suspect in the robbery and shooting the previous night. It then dispatched 4 more backup after I did this. As all Richard reached for something in his pockets, so I pulled out my gun and I commanded him to put his hands up or I'll shoot him. He took what I assumed was a gun out of his pocket, but before he revealed it, I fired shots at him and the bullet shit him. He was still conscious, but barely. I kept instructing everyone to put their hands up and get on the ground. It then dispatched that shots were fired. The other 2 people in the vehicle got out of the car, got on the ground, and put their hands behind their back. They were been placed in handcuffs and were put in the police car. A few minutes later, backup arrived, and when they arrived, I went to the driver's seat only to see Richard out and not breathing. I dug into his pocket and it didn't feel like a gun. It took out what was in his pockets, and I saw that it was only meth. Richard was trying to conceal the information, caused me to break down in tears at another police car, because I literally just took another person's life away. Another officer came to my side. And he started to comfort me as I was still crying following this incident. Richard's family filed a civil lawsuit against me for his death, and they claimed that shooting him was excessive use of force. But after the trial took place, the judge cleared me of all charges. I would also sometimes receive death threats from people on the internet for what I did, but I just ignored that. Nobody who I worked with at the police department had held a grudge against me. I was able to live a normal life again after this, but that very night will always bite me in my butt. I got you. I thought that was going to pull a gun on me. Maybe he was Jesus Grand. You survived. Got you, man. On out. I don't know what breath. Put yourself together. We got it. You're not hurt. I'm not hurt. I'm not hurt. Checked you over. We didn't find any. You didn't find anything. Look, right? Get out of here. No, not yet. You let me know when you're... I'll get you. She cleared out. Nightmare file.